You know, every time we come here and gather in this place, I think of this as sort of really being akin to our community living room. And so just to have you all here and us together to talk about the city and stuff is just really meaningful, not just to me, but to our council, to our city, our staff, everybody in the community, and I hope to all of you. So this is very cool. We've got a lot of things to talk about tonight. So I hope you're all patient. If we have to bring the food out, we can do that. Let me make sure. The first thing I want to touch base on is I want to recognize our council and thank our council, and a brief introduction. So our council president, Terry Cummings, is here. Councilor Rich Sakalik is here. And we have two new members on our council, Jules Walters and Bill Raylia. Thank you. So before we get started on some of the business of the city, I want to take a minute for recognizing our Robert Moore Award for 2019. We have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers in Westland that make up the core foundation of our community service. And through their efforts and gifts of selflessness and simple acts of kindness, our community is made better through our volunteers. The Robert Moore Award was created in 2013 to honor the individuals that make up the fabric of our Westland volunteers. The award winner is selected by the prior award recipients. And the award was named after the founder of Westland, Robert Moore, and commemorates his selflessness. Mr. Moore was known to recognize others before himself, which is evident in how our community was named. Dr. Lewis was Moore's good friend and the man he named our city after. This year's recipient of the Robert Moore Award is so selfless that he has no idea he might be honored in this capacity. His volunteering began, like many, it seems, pulling ivy, pulling blackberries and other invasives in our parks twice a week, especially Mary S. Young. He still does this, but he soon took on solve events and tremendously expanded that volunteer service to 30 to 50 volunteers every first Saturday, and some events have had up to 300 people at the event. He engages with the volunteers actively and shares his service philosophy and his love for the natural world. Many school groups are regular participants because of him, and they've learned a lot about our environment in the process. He's been active in promoting our new pollinator gardens and their important role in our environment, and especially working with our elementary and high school students. He shows up on short notice to help our students in many capacities, and he's served on our Westland Parks and Rec Board. He also volunteers just outside of Westland, where he works with the Fathers of Hearts in Oregon City, a shelter for homeless men. And he volunteers at the Oregon Zoo, where he serves as a guide and certified diver, and he actually cleans the live tanks and animals on a weekly basis at the zoo. He volunteers at the Zoo Education Center and helps many of their special events put on other events. He also serves on the board of the directors of the Clackamas River Basin Council. His passion and basic message is stop talking and get the work done. And he quietly goes about making our community better as a result. Before Westland, he was a JC and a United States Naval Supply Officer, so we can also thank him for his service. So if you haven't recognized him yet in the pictures, please join me in welcoming David Clanky, the winner of the 2019 Robert Moore Award. David, we have for you, also this will go, his name's on the plaque and it's posted at City Hall, but we also have a special gift for you. A hand-carved clock with a plaque on it for you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So moving on to the accomplishments of our city, we really should all be so appreciative and thankful for our city and all they're able to accomplish, especially given that we have one of the lowest staffing ratios per capita in our region. It's easy to sometimes forget about the daily workload, the issues and stresses our staff put in to deal with maintaining our vital infrastructure, our parks, to hold community events, provide police, library services, plan for our future, and to maintain the safe, healthy, and livable community we all love. So let's just highlight a few of them. In the area of administration and finance, staff completed a successful election process this last year with our voters approving a $20 million general obligation bond, so we can plan and complete critical projects for transportation, parks, and our city facilities. These are projects that we simply couldn't do if we didn't get the bond, so thank you voters, thank you all for bringing it in. They've increased the transparency of our government by adding thousands of electronic records available at the public's fingertips on our website. In our finance and budget arena, our city received the National Government Finance Officers Association award for the audit and budget document, and this is the 6th consecutive year our staff have won this highest award issued for government budgeting. Following voter approval of the bond, staff successfully issued the $20 million in bonds and created a Go Bond tracking website that's in the development phase now, and a financial dashboard to improve public transparency in communicating the progress of our Go Bond expenditures. In 2019, perhaps our biggest goal is going to be prepare a balanced budget for the next biennium, and this will be increasingly difficult due to the unfunded state PERS liabilities we've all heard so much about. Our fixed low rate with ever-increasing costs and community desires will require taking a close look at what we can do to reduce our expenses and increase our revenues to maintain a balanced budget and a sustainable future. I want to thank and acknowledge all our administrative staff, our finance director, Lauren Breithoff, and her staff, as well as our Citizen Budget Committee, City Manager Eileen Stein, for all their collective expertise and hard work to accomplish our finance and budget goals. So let's give up a round of applause to them. In the area of human resources, staff conducted over 30 successful recruitments, including an extensive process to hire a new police chief, and we're going to hear from Terry a little later tonight. 2 police captains, and also a new community relations coordinator. Staff have also continued to maintain low rates of on-the-job injuries, and that's through our better training and our return to work program. So I want to please give a shout out to our human resources director, Elisa Preston, and all HR staff for their efforts. Thank you. In the area of IT, staff completed numerous software upgrades, technology replacements to keep things moving and running smoothly. They expanded our public record storage, searching upgrades, a new police e-station software, police computer dispatch software, business licensing, library patron, and virtual reality computer lab upgrades, among some of their accomplishments. They will be upgrading our police department evidence and interview room management systems as we transfer from a wet to a dry fire suppression system as well. Staff will be upgrading the city's desktop computer hardware, including service capabilities at the library patron lab. And also, we've experienced some new vandalism for the first time at some of our parks, and so we're going to have to be installing some cameras at some of our parks facilities and at City Hall parking lot. Unfortunate, but we will take care of that. Please join me in thanking our IT Director, Shane Boyle, and all IT staff for all they do. Our parks and our programs the Parks and Rec Department put on are really a cornerstone of our community. Staff is nearing completion of a major upgrade to our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. Staff also wrote and received a significant grant for award for Saheli Ilahi Park Playground Restoration Project. That's going to be a vital restoration park in our Rosemont neighborhood this year. Staff also substantially completed already this year our first 2 Go Bond projects for our parks. The renovation of the softball fields at Willamette Park that you can see here, and removal of hazardous trees at Hammerly Park in Bolton. We continue excellent progress in our net zero program, energy program for our parks and city-owned facilities, where our intent is to convert to solar and return electricity back into the grid where we can, or otherwise identify other approaches that we can use to reduce our energy needs. Tanner Creek Park continues to run at net zero with our solar array that you see there. And we've made good progress behind the scenes with the Energy Trust to lay out a plan and incentives to turn City Hall and this library into smart buildings. The main restroom at our popular Marius Young Park, you may know there was another scene of vandalism there. That will soon receive the first LED conversion for our bathrooms. And then we're scoping opportunities to convert other restrooms with appropriate technologies. Many of you don't know, but we have a lot of beaver in Westland. And we have a beaver ambassador, Stephen Merschel, also known as Esteban. He's our beaver ambassador, and we continue to make great progress with our adaptive management program for our beloved beavers. Sorry, we have no ducks program at this point, but maybe we work on that in the future. They're continuing efforts for non-lethal handling and management of our beavers in ways that can suit our resources and protect wildlife as well in our important riparian areas. A couple things I'm supposed to mention that are coming if you really like beavers and you like the outdoors and resources. On March 20 and 19, we're going to put on an event called Full Moon over Westland. It's going to be a participatory event to connect your community and learn about nature and natural resources in Westland. We're also close to announcing plans for International Beaver Day, April 7th, so keep an eye out for that. And we're very close to confirming the showing of the film, The Beaver Believers, at the Westland High School on Earth Day. That'll be April 22. So there's a lot of excitement around that event. I haven't had a chance to talk to our YC about that, but I've heard there's a lot of excitement about that. So parks will continue also efforts to implement various Go Bond projects. that I had mentioned earlier, which have been funded. A couple of those, major drainage improvements at Mary S. Young Fields for increased seasonal playability as well as safety. We're going to be constructing a new viewing platform and accessible walkway at our Maddox Woods Park to improve visual access to one of the largest great blue heron rookeries in the metro area across from Goat Island. And if you haven't been there and observed that when they're in the season that the herons are there, it's really spectacular. So please check that out. They're planning major playground upgrades at Sahali and Ilahi, Sunset, and Palomino parks. And also staff's moving forward new fitness courts outside for covered pickleball for our aging population. So we're gonna see pickleball coming in. I haven't played pickleball yet, but I hear it's a lot of fun. Are there pickleball players out there? Oh, yeah, okay. All right. In addition to the intense field work and other, management duties needed for our parks, you think of cutting lawns, and you think of cutting trees and taking care of the bushes and all. There's so much that they do, and our staff put on countless numbers of community-wide events and activities with literally tens of thousands of participants yearly. Events like Music in the Park, Old Time Fair, parade tree lighting, holiday parade, Take Care of Westland Day, and the list goes on. So if you'll all just join me in please thanking our Parks Director, Ken Worcester, and all our park staff. Thank you. And when it comes to public works related items, we sometimes take for granted the high quality drinking water. You turn on the spigot, you're used to water flowing. When you flush the toilet, another miracle occurs. We step out in our cars and bikes and on foot, and we have, for the most part, a safe and accessible transportation network, although I realize we have a lot to do. When we get big storms, we're able to handle the stormwater and the snow and the debris. And we expect these things of our community and our city, but they only occur because we have a highly qualified and dedicated staff always working for you. And so, this is just spectacular. So I've narrowed this long list, and I'm going to just comment on a couple things tonight. The first is that staff made significant strides in our ongoing work in coordination with ODOT for our Highway 43 design. The first phase is down to about Mary S. Young Park. Second phase is being worked on from Mary S. Young Park down to 205. And also a state-of-the-art concept plan for our traffic in the Willamette Falls area around the Arch Bridge, and I'm going to talk about that a little later tonight. Secondly, this year, our Public Works Department was awarded a national accreditation from the American Public Works Association. Westland is just the 139th agency in North America to complete the necessary requirements to receive this accreditation. We are the 4th city in Oregon only to receive the award, and we are the first city in the Portland metro area to get this award. For the third item, I want to note a few developments involving our South Fork Water Board. Most of you know that Westland and Oregon City and a smaller unincorporated area get our drinking water from the Clackamas River, and it's co-managed by the two cities through the South Fork Water Board. The board is chaired by the mayors of our two cities in alternate years, and each city has 2 counselors on the board. And currently, Councilor Sakalik and Councilor Relier serve on our South Fork Water Board, so thank you for that. And for me, anything to do with water, whether rivers or groundwater, is near and dear to my profession. So it's a great opportunity for me also to share my passion and expertise in that capacity, and to serve on the important Regional Water Quality Providers Consortium, which I also chair, and I'm so grateful to serve and work on our region's conservation, resource management, and resiliency needs. But the real success of our South Fork rests with the incredible staff, and especially our long-serving plant manager, and close friend, John Collins. John is normally here for my State of the City, but he's not here because he's fighting cancer. And he's resting at home. But actually he's probably working at home, and he's probably trying to figure out our next CIP problem and how we can get it done cheaper. That's the kind of dedicated man he is. Yeah. And these guys can attest to that. So you thank John. And John's doing really well. His spirit is strong. He's a great family, a loving companion at home, and he's gonna win this challenge. I talked to him just a few minutes before tonight. He's gonna win the battle. So, and he's hoping to be back at South Fork. We're hoping by May. So we're excited about that. Another major accomplishment, this past summer and fall, our staff successfully repaired a notable leak in our 42-inch water main feeding our two cities without disturbing or disrupting our service. In other words, without you having to know about it. That's the best outcome you can have when no one in the community knows that there's been an issue. It's a complicated situation, a hillside, a leak detection. We had it in our CIP in the future to replace the line, but we had to implement it on an emergency action. And they were this fall able to do this and put actually a backup round line in, and actually under cost that we had estimated. So it was just amazing. So it was a highly coordinated effort with the two cities. Involved steep terrain, as I had mentioned, many experts. We had to stabilize the hillside to get the work done. We had to dewater the ground. And it's just, big kudos to our South Fork staff. So. They also got another award just this past November. The state awarded our South Fork a certificate of outstanding performance that's related to the plant operations, regulatory compliance in our emergency management system. And as a result, normally with the Oregon Health Authority, you're on a 3-year cycle. And now we can go on a 5-year cycle of review. So, reduces the time we have to spend. So it just attests to the management of our South Fork, which is tremendous. This year, we're going to be preparing a budget for South Fork. And we're going to be updating our SCADA system. And we're also working on the design of a new chemical feed building to provide automation and efficiencies that we need to really make sure we'll be able to provide the water as we need to. And in all this, I also must acknowledge a fellow, Mr. Wyatt Parno. And I don't know if Wyatt's here tonight. I don't see him out there. I was hoping he was going to be here. He's the Oregon City Finance guy. And he stepped in for John. And he's been a finance guy, of course, on South Fork. And he's been amazing. And he's not only doing a superb job, he might even be nicer than John. I'm not sure. And that's a really high bar. That's a really high bar. So thank you, Wyatt. You're out there, wherever you are. And finally, on other project works coming ahead, staff are going to continue work on water main road improvement projects around the city. And their big focus is really, again, also on the bond projects. Transportation projects, including the historic Willamette 10th Street Interchange project, design of the Phase 2 highway that I mentioned, which is going to be from Mary S. Young down to 205, and also our important Safe Routes to Schools projects that we're doing in coordination with the school district. So let's thank Lance Calvert, our director, and all public works staff for all they do. Thank you. Planning staff are critical to our land use activities and explaining the often complex code and process issues with our community, and they can be nuanced. This past year, staff completed several CDC zoning changes, including our Willamette mixed-use neighborhood transitional zone to support our Main Street businesses as well as resident neighbors, and they performed a much-needed CDC cleanup project. They also completed a multitude of land use reviews, assisted code enforcement activities, supported 57 advisory group meetings, made over 1,200 citizen contacts at the front counter, and by phone to help with many basic planning and development questions, and that doesn't count the thousands or more of citizen contacts that they had trying to work out items in our issues in our community. Very importantly, and I see the Mayor Twallen just had to leave, but I wanted to thank him. Following up on the 5-party IGA for Stafford, completed the previous year. In 2018 and just this past month, we were able to get the additional 3 cities IGA to ensure that the future of Stafford remains in city's control. So Westland's interests in the Stafford area will be protected and properly managed into the future by the cities, not by speculative developers with limited concern for our values and our quality of life interests. I want to especially thank Lake Oswego Mayor Studebaker and Tualatin Mayor Bubenek and their cities for their leadership in helping to approve the 3-city IGA and support our long-term city and regional management needs. So thank you to them. Last year, we also continued excellent relations in foundation building with our historic Willamette Main Street group, and that has been a concerted effort the last few years to help this group. Great progress and very successful new business. I just want to mention the Willamette Ale and Cider House. It's occupied the old country store building and property. It was a nightmare to get it open because of the nuances of our code, and I just want to thank the Shea family for their patience and vision and getting through our process at the city. But they've created a space here that's become a cornerstone of our community with community events really, literally almost daily. So it's a great addition to our Main Street neighbors. In 2018, we also made great progress on elements of our Waterfront Master Plan project and our historic City Hall, and I'm going to talk about those. I'm going to come back in the end, and we're going to talk about the waterfront at the end. In the building area, they completed the monumental task of finally electronically archiving all our building division permit records. As a result, we are now 100% paperless with our building permit process and inspection process. So that's nice. Less paper. So there, join me in thanking our Planning and Economic Director, John Williams, and Planning Manager, John Boyd. I don't know if they're here tonight, and all our planning staff, so thank you. Here we are at the library. It's, of course, another reflection of just the cornerstone of our community that this place represents. This last year, staff moved the bookstore from the children's area to upstairs and created the Hollow and Workshop. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. In the old bookseller and storage area to create a new event and meeting area for youth. They completed radio frequency identification conversion for over 107,000 items for improving our checkout and asset security. They opened 2 residential school book drops for depositing library materials around the city. So now we have a total of 10 book drop areas in the city, which is always helpful to our residents. Our library staff continue to grow our summer reading program with 2,839 participants this past year, a 25% increase from the previous year. They held 408 programs in fiscal year 18, including the wildly successful Harry Potter night. I haven't gone, but I'm a big fan of Harry Potter, so I need to go. 764 attendees, and that was a 59% increase from last year. In the year ahead, they're launching the Dolly Parton Imagination Library for children under 5. As part of the Go Bond projects, we're going to put a much needed roof on this building. And we're also going to bring in a high-capacity emergency generator for our disaster preparedness, because this hall right here is going to be one of our critical facilities in the event of a disaster. Library staff will increase intentional adult programming to target the 25 to 50 age demographic of our community. So please join me in thanking our library director, Doug Erickson, and all our library staff and volunteers that they do. I say that without a doubt, one of the signature developments for our city this past year was our city manager's hiring of our new police chief, Terry Krueger. There was a national search, extensive interviews, with many community members and groups, and in the end, we get a hometown anchor living right under our nose here in Westland. Isn't that great? Chief Krueger has brought a refreshing new philosophy and management approach to our community policing, and we are grateful for his leadership and the integrity he has restored to the department. It's my honor to introduce Chief Krueger to share a few words with us tonight.
So first of all, just a thank you to all the folks, all of you in the room that took the time to be here. Can I close this out? And not only those of you that made the time to be here tonight, but those of you that are taking the time to watch it at home too. You know, the people in this community that are involved are what make Westland such a great place to be. My wife and I have 31 years, have lived here for 26 years. We raised our 2 children here, and we love this community, and it's an honor to serve this community as the chief. My daughter is now I have to brag a little bit, I'm so proud. So she's a respiratory cardiology nurse for Providence, Portland, and my son just got sworn in with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue as a paramedic firefighter last night. So pretty excited. Maybe he'll get to serve at one of the 3 TVFNR stations here. So when I came into Westland Police Department, it was in need of a lot of change. So they had been without a chief for over a year. They had been without a captain for quite some time. Captain Neil Henley had announced his retirement, was going out the door, and staffing levels were low. As you're all aware, this is a challenging time to be a police officer, and it is a very complicated profession in the best of times, and even more so today. So I think I just want to share a little about the new folks that faithfully, honestly, and ethically are serving this community each and every day here in Westland. So when I first came, Shaun Doran was a brand new police officer. He was down at the State Academy, and he was just about to graduate. He was a strength and fitness coach for Major League Baseball for a decade, and we are very pleased to have him. They had a new gal, Carolyn Eide, whose mother was Los Angeles County Sheriff and her father was LAPD, and she was just getting ready to leave for the academy. They've both since graduated or out on the street serving every day. Since then, we hired Bill Snell. We stole him away from Mount Angel Police Department, and the chief over there was not too happy because they said that it was one of the best hires they had ever made, so it's probably one of the best steals we've made. I also hired Kyle Scott, who had served with the Portland Police Bureau for about 18 months, and that was not a good fit for him, and he came over here to serve us. Scott Swingle, who was the site manager for the World Trade Center downtown, and we brought him on. Hayden Eckmeyer, He just hired Hayden, and he has not yet left for academy, but he graduated from University of Portland and has been working up there in campus safety ever since. We just hired Braille Johnson. The mayor was talking about Beavers. Braille started for 2 years at linebacker for the Oregon State Beavers. We're excited to have him. And then we just hired Matthew Good. We stole a firefighter away from North Dakota who attended he attended Gonzaga. And so he'll be starting with us next month. I also have brought on, since arriving, we were without a chaplain for over a year. So I brought a police chaplain in, Alex Cross. He had served for over a decade as a police chaplain up in a small rural town in Canada and now lives here in Westland. Have since hired Sarah Liggett as our property evidence manager. She had served as a police dispatcher, a wildland fire dispatcher, and she is a super talented young lady. We hired Joella Sorensen. She works as one of our record specialists. She had worked for years in the field. And I also hired Peter Mahuna, our new captain, away from Portland, where he had served over 26 years. And he served in a variety of assignments there, from patrol to investigations to gang enforcement to tactical operations to personnel. So we were very, very lucky to have him. I promoted Otis Rollins to captain. I promoted Taylor Neal to sergeant, and that's out of 31 sworn. So you can imagine the amount of change that's going on internally. But what an opportunity. More than half of our agency has less than 5 years as a police officer. What a great opportunity to raise them right, to show them the right way to do this job. This is an honorable profession when it's done properly. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to show them the way to do that. And the folks, when I came through the door that were already here serving, they were ripe for leadership. And they were so happy to have somebody minding the store. And it's been fantastic. Morale is up. All our productivity numbers are up. And we're not having to crack a whip. People are happy to be here, and they're happy to serve this community. And one of the things about this community that makes it special is we don't have an adversarial relationship with this community. And they like us, and we like them. And what a pleasant place to be, especially in this profession, in this day and age. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. I couldn't tell you the amount of warm welcoming that I've received, but also the positive comments about the things that our officers are doing out there on the street every day. We've addressed policies and procedures like crazy since I came through the door. We had procedural justice and implicit bias training for every member in the organization. We've got additional moving radar and handheld laser radar units. Traffic's the #1 complaint. We all hate tickets, but it's the #1 complaint law enforcement receives. We also are moving to adopt a very transparent employee tracking system, which will help us with both mentoring, but also recognizing the good work that they're doing, and also holding them accountable when they're sliding a little bit. So we're young. That makes our field training program incredibly important, and the coaches that we have out there working with these young officers, and the mentorship needed by the sergeants at this time is critical. I took one of the sergeants out of the investigations unit, put the detective answering instead to the captain, and then put that sergeant back out on the street, so we now have 6 patrol sergeants to help with mentoring all of these young officers. We serve with compassion, we serve with professionalism, and we serve with a heart of service. So thank you. Feel free to come knock on my door. I live down on Old River Drive, and some people call it the white BMW house because we got about 3 of them dying in the driveway. And obviously you know where the police station is. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Who better to hear it from than the chief himself? Thank you for that. While on the subject of first responders, I also want to talk briefly, just acknowledge our relationship with TVF&R. It gets stronger every year. They complement our first responder team of professionals just to make us an even safer community. This year was exciting because we completed construction, or they completed construction, and opened our latest neighborhood station, number 55, up on Hidden Springs Road, right off Bay Meadows. A most welcome asset to the community and an opportunity to increase our response time, especially at the top of the hill. In this weather that we've just had recently, I've seen some emergencies at the top of the hill with them coming right out of the station, and it's nice. It's really nice. I had the honor to participate in the traditional hose uncoupling ceremony, and if you've never experienced one of these, it's really cool. To christen the new station, and it was a tremendous celebration. The place was packed. Our whole community members were there. It was really fun. I'm excited to see this new facility in my own neighborhood, but I'm especially grateful for the city's commitment to public safety and the support shown for clearly superior first responder services that we get from TVF&R being a part of our community. I want to thank the entire TVF&R responders at stations 58, 59, and now we have our third station, number 5, in Westland, but also the TVF&R members across the entire metro area and beyond. Just tremendous support that they've provided our community. So to our TVF&R folks, if you're out there somewhere, I think, thank you so much. So I want to take a few minutes and talk about some other developments in our community. Many of you are familiar with the Westland Alliance for Inclusive Community, a group of Westland neighbors advocating for a more inclusive community through workshops, outreach, and collaboration. This past year, they launched a new website, a newsletter feature. They expanded their community activities on schools, outreach, and governance. They offered financial community support to Westland High School's United Club students and their school-wide Unity Day workshops that confront racism, discrimination, promoting inclusion and acceptance. I'm having to cut some of their stuff out because there's so much and we have so much to get through, but they're working with our Westland School Board. They've advocated for change in policy to make the schools more inclusive, diverse, and welcoming for all. And in fact, the school district and the board formally recognized the Alliance for its work to create a school community that honors everyone, and I've got a picture of that right there. They've engaged, so they've sponsored also 6 public presentations in the community on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, including conversion projects in collaboration with Oregon Humanities and Building Bridges Conversations here at our Lutheran Church. They engaged with our Main Street group at Farmers Market and participated in various city-sponsored events such as the Old Time Parade and Fair and other festivals and activities in our community. They were an integral part of the interview process to select our new police chief and provided input to decision makers. And this year they're planning a multi-city equity summit together with representatives from Lake Oswego, Tigard, Tualatin, and Wilsonville. And that's scheduled for this fall. October 19th is the date, so check their website, stay in touch, and you can participate. I want to acknowledge Bill House as communications leader and his work with the schools committee, Leslie Hayertz as co-chair of their outreach committee, and all members of the executive committee in their various roles, including Cynthia Flannery, Marty Mayhard, Keisha Brewster, and Kathy Salvaggio. If you're out there somewhere, thank you very much. Clean Living Above is another organization here in Westland working to engage, educate, and empower individuals and their families to prevent or mitigate substance use and mental health disorders. This is a critical need, especially for our school youth, the culture, their experience around addiction, and to address mental health wellness. CLA's vision is to work collaboratively with community members, businesses, schools, county, state organizations to support these community needs. In 2018, they implemented the second National Drug and Alcohol Fact Week, engaged a widespread range of participants in the community. They helped our school district participate in the Oregon Wellness Survey for the first time. Now, this is an important opportunity to check in on how your community is really doing. You look in the mirror. That's not always an easy thing to do. Our school district hadn't done that before, but they did now with this urging. And so I want to recognize and honor our school district stepping up and looking in the mirror. That's a big thing to do, and so thank you for that. Clackamas County awarded CLA its first ever prevention grant, and it's enough to pay for their staff in helping their organizational work. They helped establish a teen advisory board of 200 Westland High School students. The students have grown the mentoring days with 8th graders from first 2 middle schools, and now they're going to all 4 middle schools for their workshops. They partnered with our SROs to speak at Athey Creek 6th graders about safety and drug alcohol awareness and prevention and how to support each other better. Pam Pearce is the founder of CLA, and she was recognized at the annual DePaul event in Portland at the Old Governor Hotel this year. And I had the opportunity to go there and participate for her dedication to prevention and recovery, where she received the Samuel Wheeler Award, Freedom Award. She was also awarded this year the Volunteer of the Year for our school district. So thank you, Pam. They're going to continue their work with prevention of the high school youth. They hope to open a youth group, a youth group teen advisory board in Wilsonville this year at the high school. They're launching a concept known as alternative peer group to address emotional, psychological, and social needs of struggling teens struggling with substance use disorder. And Pam, along with board member Tony Mann, are also co-founders of the Harmony High School that's scheduled to open later this year, a recovery high school. And none of this, again, would be possible without the passion and leadership of Westland resident Pam Pearce, who's formed Clean Living Above and has made a life commitment to our community. So our youth council has been working hard on their organization and opportunities to expand their outreach at the school and in the community and to raise funds for what they're doing. I want to bring back Hunter Shapersky, Jake, Caitlin and Mac, and they're going to talk just a little bit about what they're doing ahead. And as they come up, I just want to say I've been getting active in youth councils across the nation through the National League of Cities, and it's fascinating. I love the work. I love hanging out with the youth, hearing about their interests and their concerns, and seeing them engaged and helping to shape their world is a really powerful thing. So.
Speaking of, our mayor has done an amazing job to help us with our ideas, events we would like to implement, issues that need to be addressed, as well as any questions we've had.
So I'd like to say a few things that I love about our community. So some of those things are our education system, the drive and passion present in this community, as well as the love we have for one another.
Also, I'd like to say the support in our community, the sense of family, as well as the encouragement that we've gotten.
Some issues that are important to me, as well as our group, the Youth Advisory Council, that we hope to draw awareness to this year or next year, are drug and alcohol abuse/use and the juuling issue in our community, especially with the youth.
As well as mental health, specifically anxiety, depression, and stress, as well as the pressure that the youth feel.
So we will be doing a drug take-back event April 27th at Rosemont Ridge Middle School, and it'll start at 10 in the morning until about 1 o'clock.
And we are also in the works of planning a mental health awareness night. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our schools are such an important part of our community, and we've been working on growing a more collaborative relationship with our school district. So to help with that, this year, our council appointed a new liaison role to our school district, and Councilor Walters was appointed to that position. Councilor Walters has been involved in the district as a volunteer since 2007, including working with the PTOs and PTAs of several of our schools. She was previously invited to the board of directors of the Education Foundation and eventually served as vice president and then president until the summer of 2018. So she's highly qualified in this new liaison position, and we're excited for her role and wish her the best, and we look forward to all the scuttle she brings back to City Hall. Thank you. I want to mention, if you haven't heard, this year, our school district is gearing up for an important bond measure to leverage expiring funds. So this is an opportunity to reinvest in our schools without raising your taxes, our taxes. Just a week ago, they held a bond summit where they reviewed input so far and outlined projects that they've got sketched out for both the Wilsonville and Westland portions of our school district that we share. Some of the likely projects include a new third high school focused on CTE at Athey Creek. To do that, they're going to need to move the middle school, Athey Creek, and their proposal is to move it into Willamette at their Dollar Street property. And then one of the things, I'm excited about all elements, but they're looking to improve the stadium capacity, safety, and parking at our Westland High School. Yeah. So a lot of work to be done on that part, but we'll get there. And then they have many other district-wide improvements they have planned. So it's very interesting. It was a very productive and interesting summit, and I would just encourage everyone to get involved, go to their website, give them input. Now's a good time to give input. They're getting organized to go out for the bond. They want to fine-tune the projects. They want to be real specific and transparent about that. So take your time and give input. We've seen, especially the last couple of years, a lack of civil discourse at the federal level. But the lack of civil discourse has also been experienced at times here in our own community. Civil discourse means, at minimum, mutually respectful, courteous, constructive, and orderly communications. Civil discourse is critical to improve not only our public policy decisions and processes, but to, to establish boundaries of respect, tolerance, and acceptance in our community in the process. To address this, last year our council prepared guidance to encourage civility and a spirit of community in our public settings, meetings, and correspondence. And there are copies of the discourse, I think, over here on the table. If you're interested, you can get it on our website. Read it, please. and live faithfully by it. We're hoping it improves the discourse in our community. I think it will. And it provides us all a forum and a starting point for communicating, something we really need to work on. A couple of really fun things in our community. This past year, we established our second Peace Pole, working with the Rotary Club and the Westland Interact Club, representing our Westland High School students again. See, the students are getting involved in everything. The second Peace Pole here, the first one we did at the high school, I think the year before, but here we've done, on the right there, you can see it's at City Hall. It's a very fitting location. The Peace Pole is symbolic, really, to people in different ways, depending on your individual struggles, aspirations, but it's also symbolic, I think, to the broader challenge and desires we all face as a family, as a neighborhood, a city, a state, a nation, and even a worldwide community. Personally, I find the Peace Pole as a symbol of love and compassion and the need to reach out to everyone in the community, to let them know that we care about them, that we respect each other, that we embrace our differences as a symbol of strength and unity and common purpose on this great planet we share. So also, as an important symbol of unity in the community this year, we received this beautiful Tillamook Paddle from the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. Westland and the river around the Willamette Falls, as you know, are an important tribal home to the Grand Ronde and to other tribes in the region, of course. They lived off the land at the falls, and this was a significant area of trade and commerce for thousands of years before white settlement. This is a particular style of paddle from the Tillamook, carved by Brian Kriebel. It serves as a paddle, but also a quick spear. By busting these spines, you actually get a spear out of it. So it's sort of a dual-purpose, multitask tool. Very cool. The painted chevron design you see is apparently one cherished by their ancestors as well as currently their people today. So this is just a functioning work of art that we're grateful to receive from the tribe, and we're going to mount it in City Hall this year. I want to thank John George. I didn't see John tonight. And I want to thank all tribal members for this gift, for honoring our important relations with them. So thank you. Finally, in the community sort of category, if you will, we're planning a new arts and culture commission to foster arts and culture investment and activities in our community. We held a town hall on the topic last year, and there has been great interest from citizens in joining or participating in its development. Council just recently appointed 7 members to the commission, and we are encouraging anyone that applied or anyone who is interested in the arts and culture to participate in the commission's formulation and visioning process that's going to begin this year. I want to give special thanks to Doug Erickson, our library director, for taking on the staff liaison support role, and to Council President Cummings, who's leading the liaison role for our council, and also Councilor Relier, who's also going to support that role. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, moving along. So the last couple of years, I mentioned really how our city has been reaching out like never before to our neighboring cities and regional stakeholders, and how we've been building relationships and foundations that we need really for a more successful future. This embraces an approach to strengthen our positions and opportunities that serve not only our needs, but one that helps us create a better urban setting with our neighbors that we increasingly share attributes with. Because Metro is growing. Metro Portland is growing. It's growing up around us, and we need to work with our neighboring communities and to influence things that support our community goals and values. That is, we need to work better with our neighbors and as a regional partner. I've been working hard on this approach and philosophy since I became mayor, and I believe that our city is already so much stronger and better equipped for this now in 2019 than when I first came on council in 2015. But of course, this requires a team of dedicated staff and an effective city council. And I want to thank staff and I want to thank our councilors for their time, dedication, and service toward these goals. Speaking of goals, our council is still working on its goals. But everyone's asking, what are you doing? Where are we going? And that kind of thing. So while we haven't finished the goals, and our goals are actually going to probably change some, and as we get into our budget process, we're going to determine what we can and can't do, these will change. So what I did was I called council goal themes. So I'm encapsulating 10 areas. I've captured 10 areas that sort of encompass the things we're working on. So let's flip through those. We want to implement various go-bond projects we've talked about in the area of transportation, parks, and city facilities. We're interested in improving our local transportation planning network, addressing street safety, community character, and safe routes to schools. We want to continue our Waterfront master plan efforts, and I'm going to talk about more of that in a little bit, as well as extensive community outreach and community development in collaboration with our regional stakeholders. We want to see the locks repaired and reopened. We're going to continue that effort, and I'm going to come back and talk about that again. We're going to improve our community's emergency preparedness. We want to improve our land use process and community education engagement to support Westland values and community interests. We want to expand our arts and culture and education footprint and continue building relationships with our stakeholders. We want to explore options to improve intra-city transport. We want to ensure environmental protections and sustainable practices in all our decision-making. And finally, we need to prepare a fiscally responsible biennial budget that meets our community values and our sustainability goals. So in this final section, I want to take a few minutes to update you on our city's most exciting long-range project, our Waterfront Master Planning Project, and comment briefly on some other happenings and opportunities in and around the Willamette Falls area. This panorama here looks across from Westland, as you know, from Oregon City's side. It shows the magnificent falls, the old paper mill, and the historic T.W. Sullivan hydroelectric plant at the facilities. And remember, if you didn't know, these falls are, of course, powered our nation's first long-distance transmission of electricity right from here on Oregon City and Westland side down to downtown Portland, 14 miles. It all started here, electric transmission. The locks are, of course, hidden behind there, and we'll get to that in a minute. As most of you know, we initiated over a year ago a long-range project to master plan the entire waterfront area between Arch Bridge and Willamette and between the river and I-205. And no sooner had we kicked things off when the paper mill suddenly closed. That's another story. The shutdown triggered a multitude of evaluations and considerations and what I'll call for now a sort of decommissioning process between PGE and the mill owners, but also a due diligence process by PGE evaluating its options and future interests in the waterfront area. And very importantly, how their interests might align with our city's long-range plans and interests. Remembering now, PGE owns 60% of the waterfront. From this process emerged a realization that PGE and the city share many common interests and goals, and it makes sense for us to work together in partnership in the future visioning and planning of our unique waterfront landscape. This photo here is just offered, it looks kind of washed out, but in that, we need to get a bigger screen in Westland, so maybe we need to add this to our IT thing, sorry, bigger screen. The main thing I want you to see here is sort of coming up, but the areas in blue are just show you the areas owned by PGE, which kind of gives you a sense of how much of their lands they occupy. This past year, they hired a consultant team for their due diligence process to assess their property assets and liabilities and look at adjacent properties and land uses and opportunities in the waterfront area with considerable outreach and community planning. While considerable outreach and community planning are to be completed, they recently prepared some guiding principles that they hope to see addressed in approaching the future planning process for the waterfront area. These kinds of principles are important to inform our envisioning concepts, and I'm really pleased to see that their guiding principles are really consistent with the broad goals that our city has been kicking around, that I've heard from all the regional stakeholders that are involved in the Willamette Falls and our heritage area. And they are these very simple items. One, recognizing that the electric plant is going to continue to operate as a hydroelectric plant and provide clean energy to our community through hydroelectric service. They have been recently relicensed under FERC, so there's a lot of requirements associated with those operations. Secondly, recognizing they want the Willamette Falls locks to be reopened and operational, and we do, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. They feel that whatever's done should reflect the storied history of the site. It should preserve the site's historic roots, and it should meet whatever the community's needs and visions are. These are all very achievable goals that I think we all share, and ones that we'll like to see integrated. So we're excited to work in partnership with PGE as we embark this year and beyond on this incredible opportunity to vision, restore, and redevelop the waterfront and the unique environment we share in the best way fitting for our community needs. Most importantly, we want to bring people and our communities back to the river. Another exciting aspect of our waterfront planning is the new transportation network that is emerging for the area. Anyone familiar with the roads in and around Arch Bridge, you know what a disaster and how dysfunctional it is. This past year, while PG and the mill were working on their stuff, it actually was a great opportunity for our staff working with ODOT on some concepting of redesigning the whole infrastructure for transportation in the area. And particularly our engineers working with ODOT because of the tie-ins with the I-205 work. Both the new Abernathy Bridge that's coming, the I-205 expansion, the connection to Highway 43 and Highway 99, those are all ODOT roads. They're not our roads. So we need to collaborate with ODOT on those. But this afforded this opportunity to do all that. There's still a lot of details to be refined, but the eventual reconfiguration, I think, is really going to be cool. It's going to involve roundabouts, cycle track design, and through connections to Highway 43 and beyond. Another great outcome of this design is we're going to have the opportunity to restore and preserve perhaps our most important city-owned building, our historic City Hall. And there's a pointer on this thing, but it won't work on the screen. But it's if you don't know where the City Hall, right when you come over the Arch Bridge, you can see the little bump there. It allows us to preserve that, which is the next cool item I just want to touch base on. This is a very significant development as our council has initiated a letter of intent and agreement to partner with the Willamette Falls Heritage Area Coalition, the Willamette Falls Heritage Foundation, other nonprofits such as the Arts Alliance, Willamette Falls Trust, that's the old Legacy project across from Oregon City, and others to restore and repurpose our historic building. And the goal here is to become the tourism, culture, and arts center for Clackamas County and the whole Willamette Falls State Heritage Area that will soon be, hopefully, a national heritage area. To seed this repurposing, $100,000 in tourism grant money has already been secured from the county. The coalition is committed to $150,000 in cash and matching money through grants. And the city has identified $400,000 preliminarily allocated toward the restoration project. A highly qualified local architect is working on the design of what might be done and seeing this work through. So this will become the gateway to tourism and heritage activities in and around the Willamette Falls, and that is an exciting development. There's so many in the community, thank you. There are so many that have been working to expand our heritage record and resources around the falls, and I wouldn't even know where to begin where to thank them all. But especially, I want to acknowledge the board members of the coalition, the Westland Historic Society. So many deserve credit, but I especially want to acknowledge the executive director of the Willamette Falls Heritage Area Coalition, Siobhan Taylor. She was going to be here tonight, but she's quite sick. She was going to present a few things, but. Let's just thank Siobhan and all those members for all that they do and seeing this through. Thank you. And the last component I want to touch base on at the Willamette Falls, of course, this historic resource right in our backyard, the Willamette Falls Locks, just behind the gateway, right? At our gateway. As most of you know, the Corps of Engineers closed the locks in 2011 over safety concerns and because the locks didn't meet their mission of commercial conveyance. The closure triggered huge interest in seeing that the locks are repaired and reopened. This effort has grown with increasing vigor and advocacy, engaging local governments, businesses, nonprofits, Clackamas County, Metro, our state legislature, our entire federal delegation in Washington, D.C. is behind this, and we're all going to hold the Corps of Engineers accountable. Yes, we are. The effort culminated in 2017 with a unanimous passing of a bill in a legislature of Senate Bill 256, which established the State Locks Commission to oversee the transfer, repair, and reopening the locks. I was appointed by the governor to the state commission, and I'm honored to serve as the chair of that state commission with the goal to establish a governance and a finance model for transferring the locks from the federal government to another entity. Our key finding so far is really that the locks are a unique historic asset and they belong in the public. They're going to stay in the public. I'm confident that we'll be successful in our mission and the locks will once again reopen and reconnect the upper and lower Willamette River reaches. This will open a flood of opportunities for expanded river access across, supporting recreation, tourism, commercial transport, local port development, resiliency, and valued economic development along our Willamette River. All this, and I haven't touched base on the Legacy project across the river in Oregon City. That is an entirely another story, but I will let you know that the two cities, we are closely working together and with all regional stakeholders so that this unique landscape receives better stewardship and it's celebrated in its richness for all future generations. So that we can be happy about. So that's a lot. We've accomplished a lot this past year. It's kind of warm in here. Sorry for y'all having to sit through all that. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. As you leave here tonight, please remember that you've got great dedicated staff working on your city. On top of that, we have so many dedicated volunteers and others serving to maintain our great quality of life that we enjoy and cherish here in our community. I'm excited about the opportunities that lay ahead for Westland, and we should all be very proud of our city, its accomplishments, and its future. It's truly an honor to be your mayor, and I thank you again. Thank you.